Welcome to another edition of the Advisor's Guide to Estate Planning, where we continued in our series of interviewing advisors that have successfully implemented estate planning for their clients and facilitate them sharing their best practices with you, the listener, and how they're having success filling in on this estate planning gap for their clients. Today, our guest is Adam Sommers. Adam hails from the metropolis of Scappoose, Oregon, and
Very
has been
good.
an advisor since 1996. That was my question. Did I get that right? Um, Adam launched Sommers Financial Management 22 years ago. He's a self-described ideas person who his analytical nature and a sharp pencil has made investment analysis and planning an ideal career fit. So, welcome to the Advisor's Guide to Estate Planning,
Thank you,
Adam.
Matt.
And
Great
so
to
I
meet
got
you.
that right. Scappoose.
Scappoose, yeah, it means gravelly plain in Native
Okay.
America. It's right on
Okay.
along the Columbia River.
All right, and not far from Portland, and so I'm not far from you up in the Spokane, Coeur d'Alene area. So, and I
Yeah.
noticed you have either a location or some presence in Tucson, Arizona. So is that something? Is that a where you go in the winter, like many people in the Pacific Northwest?
That's right. Yeah. So I'm a snowbirder of sorts. My kids are still in school, so we do go
Okay.
down there for the entire school year.
Oh,
My
really?
office, I started my office in 2002 in the Portland area. And in 2013, when our kids were getting ready to go to school, we made the decision to put them into school in Arizona and
Okay.
spend winters in the sunshine.
Okay. Beautiful. That's my goal. And I'm kind of I've done the opposite. I'm a recent transplant to the Pacific Northwest, and I do still have one that has 4 more years of school left, and I'm looking forward to being the snowbird once he finishes high school in a few
Yeah.
more
Well,
years.
Spokane was on our list for sure when
Okay.
we were looking at where we were going to land when not in the Pacific
Mm,
Northwest.
okay.
And just thought the winters might be a little harsh.
They are harsh and they're long. And I would love to be in Arizona for a good chunk of them. I love the snow skiing and snowboarding with our family, but Arizona, I think, is calling once my kids are launched into life for at least a good chunk of those winter months up here that
Yeah.
the
Tennis,
Pacific
pickleball, and
Northwest.
golf.
There you
That's my
go.
winter
Oh,
activities.
there you go. There you go. Oh no, you're a pickleballer. We won't go
Well,
there. There's no shortage of you.
sort of.
Well, great. And
Yeah,
so you
everybody's doing it.
it is. What's going on with this pickleball is the thing for everybody to play. I feel bad for all the tennis players who, their courts are being taken over. Tennis is dying.
And their players are being stolen too.
Yeah, exactly. Pickleball is the new thing. I haven't yet played. I'm kind of holding off. And I'll see how long I can do that. Because I'm worried I'll have to join the cult if I play. And so
Yeah.
I'm
I
cautious.
mostly play tennis, but I've been pulled into pickleball a few times. Yes.
Okay, that's awesome. Well, tell us about how you came to this idea of adding estate planning a few years back to your capabilities with your clients, and as you've developed Summers financial services, financial management, how this became kind of a priority for you.
Yeah, so we shifted from investment focused planning, which is what I started with, to real financial planning in 2016. And as we started to develop real financial plans for people, we were noticing gaps in tax prep and estate plans. And
Hmm.
so we started to ping our clients about these things. And I think I read about XY Planning Network's tax solutions, and they were
Okay.
having advisors outsource the tax solutions
Yep.
to XY. They would do the tax return, they'd get it back to the advisor and present. And I thought, well, that's brilliant. I want to use something like that. So I began a conversation with them about that. The alternative is you can hire an estate attorney inside your practice, or you can hire a tax prep person
Hmm.
inside your office. And so I looked at outsourcing, and along the same lines, looked at estate plan outsourcing and found Helios back in the
Hmm.
day.
Yep.
And so began engaging with Helios. I did my own estate
Hmm.
plan just to see how it went and what it
Hmm.
looked like and what it felt like.
Yep. Yeah, and that gave you the confidence that this works, that this is it's a quality document, and especially in a state like Oregon, where you do have a state tax, you felt comfortable with the quality of the documents, doing your own plan. Is that
Right,
fair to say?
right. And then I even had a local estate planning attorney review it. And she said, yes, you have the credit shelter trust language in there. You know, it looks appropriate. This is as good as we would do in our office for half the price.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And so that gave you then kind of the good documents. This works. Now, how do you implement this? Tell us kind of how you decided to go to your client base or even prospects as well. How are you approaching them with the estate planning capability?
Yeah, so I think what we decided on in about 2019 was we were going to do a quarterly planning process. And so every quarter we focus on a different piece of the financial plan. And first quarter is very busy. You know, it's contributions, it's notifying about RMDs, it's doing taxes. And then second quarter, we update financial plan after tax season. And then third quarter, what we started to do was send them an estate plan summary of what documents we know that they have, when they were last updated, and who the beneficiaries and the people that they deputized for healthcare agents, power of attorney, trustee, things like that, who those were. And what we noticed was about 90% of our clients, they were blank.
Wow.
We had beneficiaries on the accounts
Yep.
that we managed,
Yep.
but all their other accounts, we didn't know who their beneficiaries were.
Okay.
They didn't share those with us, and they didn't always share their estate documents. So we would
Yep.
send them this report. We would say, hey, here's what we have for your estate plan. Do you have a will in place? Do you have these documents? And by the way, can you get us your beneficiary designations on those other accounts? And that spurred a lot of conversation.
Mm.
So we started doing this in 2020 for the estate plan thing. And that's when we started using Encore, which I think at the
Hmm.
time was
Yep.
Helios. Um, and all of a sudden, people said, yeah, I know I need to get that done. And we suggested, you know, we had been suggesting since 2016 to go to an estate planning attorney and
Yep.
get that done. And of
Yep.
course, they said, yes, it's on our list. We're going to get it done. And 2017 came around and we sent them the report and they said, yeah, that's on our list. We've got to get that done. 2018 came around, you know, same
Yep.
story over and over again. So in
Yep.
2020, in the height of COVID, when people are concerned about life and longevity and what happens when,
Mm.
and we said, hey, for $1,000, we can get all this stuff done for you. And they said, oh my gosh, let's do it.
Mm.
And the amazing thing is we had people that would jump in. It's about a 45-minute intake through the system. And we would have an estate plan to them in a week
Hmm.
in the height of COVID. And so they were relieved.
Mm.
They checked it off their list and it was a completely reasonable fee. And
Yeah.
obviously we mark it up a little bit.
Yep. Yep.
So, you know, we have a flat fee thing where we say it's $1,000 and then every deed is $250 and a mobile notary is $250 and we arrange for that. I know
Okay.
you guys have a new mobile notary
Yeah.
service as well.
Yep.
Yeah. So, you know, we would go through that process and we've done now in the last 4 years, over
Hmm.
50 estate plans
Yeah.
through Encore.
Yeah.
And we've convinced people to go to the local estate planning attorney. And so, you know, we've probably got about 20% of our clients to finish their estate plan.
Great.
Just the basic documents.
Sure. Where it was 90%-ish that you previously maybe didn't have one, or at least definitely didn't have the funding coordinated.
Correct. Yeah. So we went from 10%, you know, compliance and having it
Hmm.
done to more than 20% for sure.
Cool.
Which is great. And every year it gets better.
Yeah. And how many households are there? Because I know you have a team of 4 of you or so that
So
this is a lot of work when you take a whole quarter to do it.
yeah, so we have 3 advisors and 1 support person, and we are planners to 450 households
Okay. Okay.
and growing.
Yeah. Great. And I was curious when you said you're actually sending out that questionnaire and having them speak to their outside held accounts. Have you uncovered assets or uncovered other conversations that have been valuable by even saying from the estate planning conversation, we need to know those other accounts are done right to help you solve for that? How has that impacted conversations? Has that been valuable?
That's been you. Well, and what's funny is just yesterday I called a client and I said, "Hey, I'm just updating this stuff. I wanted to know about your old 401k and I want to make sure the beneficiaries are on there correctly." And he said, "You know what? Let's call Fidelity right now and roll that over. And
Ah,
then I know
beautiful.
it's done and it's with you and and let's check on my current 401k right now to make sure I've set that up properly." And that was
Beautiful.
just yesterday.
That's beautiful. So
Yeah.
we've heard it from other advisors that your asset growth, estate planning has to added to your asset growth.
It has added, in little bits like that, but
Hmm.
really the value of both the estate planning service and the tax prep service that we outsource, um, it's made clients very, very sticky.
Mm,
Once you're in charge of their estate plan and their documents, and you're in charge of their tax prep, they really feel connected. And obviously, you've built trust,
yeah.
and they just won't leave. They're not going to leave. It's too hard to replace all those pieces when they come to one place for that.
Yeah, super valuable. And so you've been at this a long time, 22 years with your own firm. So you must have also seen clients pass away over the years. Have you experienced the difference of a client passing away with and without an estate planning? What is your experience there, and any stories that you'd share, and kind of the power of being able to now have an impact here?
Yeah, so we actually just put on a presentation last month for about 50 people about estate planning. And we invited an author of an estate planning book, we invited an estate planning attorney, and then we presented on our process, which includes the Encore service that
Hmm.
we offer. And Blaine in my office got up and spoke about his personal experience because he had a crazy uncle, and the crazy uncle was smart enough to put a trust together. And so when it came time for a successor trustee to take over, when he had to go into, professional help, then, his father was able to easily pick that up. And then, uncle passes away while in long-term care, and father just continues and takes care of everything according to the document. I mean, it was seamless and simple and easy. And we've seen a lot of cases where I just had one the other day where their parent died and they were inheriting the things with their siblings, and one of the accounts didn't have a transfer on death.
Okay.
And they thought they had it taken care of. They thought they had all their accounts and it was Morgan Stanley or somebody. And they said, well, now we have to pay this estate attorney a probate fee, a probate court, just to get this one account. And it was, an $80,000 IRA or something. Or it wasn't an IRA, I guess,
Hmm.
because it was something that had to be
Hmm.
probated.
Okay.
Um, anyway, we've seen the opposite of not having everything in place. Yeah.
Hmm. Is that something that's sometimes a question we get? What's the service and what's available from a once my client dies, the administration? Have you learned the estate planning world sufficiently that you're able to add some value there in partnership with the attorney relationships from an administration standpoint?
I don't know if I'd say I would. I know my
Okay.
couple of my team members are better at
Okay.
the after death process, but
Yeah.
what I like about having estates done with trusts, which is what we typically recommend,
Hmm.
is that you don't have to deal with a probate attorney.
Yep. Yep.
And so I think that's the huge value. The other thing is even this author that was at our presentation the other day said, hey, look, even if you don't want to do a trust, you can go put a transfer on death of your house, and then your beneficiary can take title to the house. And I will say that I had to speak up and say, we've talked to the title company here in town, and they won't insure that title until probate is complete.
Mm.
If it's a transfer on death rather than a trust,
Oh,
because they
interesting.
want to make sure that that title is clear.
Hmm.
And so the will must be probated even with a transfer on death. And so obviously, if the beneficiary wanted to move into the house,
Yep.
then it's not an issue. But
Yeah.
if the beneficiaries want to sell the house and not maintain
Yep.
it for 18 months,
Yep.
it would be nice if it was held in trust.
Yeah. Yeah, and having all those examples, these are the kind of things that are really powerful to share with clients on why the crossing T's and dotting I's really matter from a funding and the value you're providing there. And it sounds like you still have an attorney you work with for the clients that aren't a fit for Encore, and even to the degree that you've done these, done a session and done a seminar with them. How has that relationship, and I'm assuming that attorney knows, he or she knows you're using Encore as well. How does that
Yes.
work out?
I think so. We have a couple of attorneys that we refer to, and we have good relationship with them. We do send clients their way, especially if it's complex, blended families, kids that are getting less than a fair share, maybe, different kinds of carve outs. We say, hey, if it's going to be a little bit complex and the conversation might be uncomfortable, we recommend speaking with an actual estate planning attorney.
Hmm.
But for the majority of people, like we say, about 75% of our clients can come right to us for the service, save money, save time,
Yep.
and keep it simple.
Yep. And so a seminar like that, do you have that's a more of a, is that a client engagement kind of session with your existing clients, or is it also prospecting where you're finding new clients by leading with an estate planning topic?
Yeah, so it was both. So we
Okay.
we did invite the community. We had people drive from as far away as Seattle.
Wow.
We had people come from across the river in Washington, and people we didn't know. I mean, we were manning the door going, I don't know who these people are, but
Great.
here they are. And so, our existing clients came, and we had our prospects were invited, personally
Hmm.
invited, and then also the community at large was invited. And so we had all kinds of people show up, most of them sort of new to estate planning, where maybe they
Hmm.
haven't engaged yet.
Hmm.
Most of our clients that we've done estate plans for through Encore, they knew they didn't need to come. We did offer free wine tasting,
Hmm.
so some
Ah,
did
there you
come.
go.
But they were all set, and they knew they were
Hmm.
all set, and they knew what we were talking about, and they were also a resource for people sitting around the tables
Yeah,
with them.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you can strategically put them, spread them across the group, right?
Yeah, we did not assign seating, but there were
The-
conversations happening for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And so what do you feel like the outcome from that? Is that something that has proven itself to be valuable for new clients, generating new clients previously and this time around as well?
Yeah, so this is the first time we've done a presentation on estate planning, and we
Okay.
definitely got um, multiple appointments to discuss.
Hmm.
We also got referrals from existing clients for like, oh, my son needs to come see you
Yep.
because he's got a kid and he needs to get these things in place.
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, it was really valuable for prospecting. It was really valuable for that sticky relationship, and it was a
Mhm.
great networking event just for us and for our clients.
That's great. So how has that been kind of the Encore experience? You've worked a lot with our team, 50 plans. You've probably had a lot of unique situations. Tell me or share kind of the best practices maybe of working with Encore, but also maybe how you've put together your team. I'm assuming you're not the one doing all this yourself. And so the workflow, I'm always curious of how you've put kind of somebody raises their hand and says, help me get my trust in place. Launch us a little bit into that experience
Yeah,
from there, how you
sure.
structure it.
And we do have an official workflow set up in Redtail for this.
Okay.
So as soon as someone says, "Hey, I want to do an estate plan," we launch the workflow. The workflow says, "All right, first off, send them the um, intro to estate planning, which is an
Hmm.
Encore document." And so it says, "Here are the important things you need to think about. Who are you going to leave in charge? Who's going to take care of your money, your kids, your healthcare decisions? Those things." We provide them that, so that gets their juices flowing and the thoughts happening. And then we follow up with, okay, now that you've thought about those things, let's set up an appointment to start putting those ideas together. And so that's done by my administration, my
Okay.
my assistant. And so she sets up that first meeting with me. We start having the conversation, and during that, I bring up the Encore system and I start walking through. Okay, tell me about your kids. And I preload for our existing clients that I already know. Today I had a meeting. I preloaded as much as I could, but they're a new client, so I didn't have their kids' information.
Okay.
So it was a conversation where, okay, let's talk through these. And if at some point in the workflow you come to a point where hey, this system's not going to work for these people. You click that, I think they need to go see an estate planning attorney, and it launches
Yep.
into, all right, here are the referral sources based on where they are, what
Yep.
they need.
Okay.
But if it fits and they like the idea and they know their answers to these questions, because that's really what we're doing. We're
Yep.
asking them questions and they're basically filling in the blanks.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they know those answers, we put them into the system. And then you have a really great system where we say, send to the client so that they can review it. And it gives them a nice summary of all the people they've deputized, the beneficiaries they've selected, the items they've selected to give to who. And they can approve it from there. Or I say, hey, just send me an email if you want me to update anything, add anything, change anything. And that is back to the client. And sometimes it takes a half a day. Sometimes it takes a week for them to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
But once that gets completed, we send it to Encore. And within a week, we have documents back.
Yep.
And that's when it really gets difficult. So that's the easy part.
Mm-hmm.
All that upfront stuff, that's the fun and easy part.
Yeah.
Although
Okay.
today, one of the participants didn't enjoy the conversation about healthcare at the end of life.
Yeah, that's not a fun, that's never a fun one for any of us to consider, those end of life tough questions.
I actually, and I'm an investment guy through and through, but
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy the estate planning conversation more than the investment conversation. The
Interesting.
clients understand the questions.
Yeah, there
They
you
don't
go.
necessarily understand the investments.
There
I
you
mean, they
go.
get the idea of what's a stock
Mm-hmm.
and what's a bond, but they don't
Mm-hmm.
understand why certain funds or certain things,
Mm-hmm.
or the difference in tax and all that.
Yep.
State questions, they really understand.
Mm. Yeah, interesting.
And it's very engaging. So I actually enjoy the estate planning interviews more than the investment discussions,
Mm.
even though I
And
enjoy investments.
you learn a lot, and it's real. It's finally we get to the real things that are most important, values and legacy. And I mean, I think I've heard from advisors in new client engagement conversations that you're developing deep roots right out of the gate with this kind of a conversation that plays into deepening the relationship, even if it's a new relationship, but also if it's one you've been managing investments. Now you're getting to the heart of what matters to them.
Right, right. And yeah, the one today, the new client, they said you can see how much we don't trust our siblings because they were picking other people other than their siblings for these
Yeah,
deputizing things. So anyway,
sure.
it is interesting to see those
Yeah.
family dynamics and have those discussions. So once we get the documents back, now the real work
Yep.
starts. So we have the advisor review the documents, and then the client service person prints all the documents out, sets up the meeting with one of the notaries in our office. We bring at least one witness, so usually the advisor, and sometimes a second witness if
Mm-hmm.
they can't. And then we set up that signing meeting. So we go through those documents, and that takes about an hour. So that's the
Okay.
not fun stuff where you've got the stack of
Okay.
documents all flagged, and you're
Mm-hmm.
saying, all right, remember you answered this, so sign
Yep.
here. Here's your will.
Yep.
Sign here. Here's the trust. So that one takes a little bit of time. Well, I should back up. We post those documents to their client portal, and we say, here
Okay.
are your unsigned estate plan documents if you want to review them.
Yep. Okay.
Honestly, 90% of them don't.
Mm-hmm.
It's legalese. It's a big stack of
Yep.
documents. They don't
Yep.
look. So
Yep.
when they come into the office, a lot of times they need that. Okay, tell me what this is again and how we set it up. And so you guys do a really nice job of putting a cover page that says, here is the outline of
Yep.
all the things that you've selected. And they sign that outline. And that's pretty much, they feel confident that,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I can see it. It's one page. It's very simple.
Yep.
We get them notarized, we get them signed, we send them on their way. Then we take all those documents, we scan them in, store them in their document vault. So we have a copy of everything. They have a copy of it accessible there. And then we put it in a leather bound binder, just like an estate planning attorney.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we add some things. So we have tabs, color coded tabs. And then we add some things. We add a table of contents. We add, you guys provide a tangible personal
Mm-hmm.
property list where
Yep.
as they add or subtract things, they can take
Okay.
those off the list. Hey, we added a new car. We want this car to go to so-and-so. But we add things like, hey, where do I find the keys? Hey, who's my
Mm.
doctor? What
Yes.
medications am I taking regularly? So that when somebody has to come pick
Yeah.
up the pieces, they have that information. What are my passwords? Where do I
Yes.
bank?
Yep.
And so we
Great
add
stuff.
these things to that binder so that
That's great.
when things happen, whoever gets a hold of that binder has all those answers.
Yeah.
And we provide them that binder plus an extra copy of the trust for the successor trustee. And we say, hey, this is for them if you would like to give it to them, and tell them what their
Yep.
role would be. Um,
Yep.
so
Beautiful.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that I love that. I love that extra level of detail. And then are you using, obviously we have a vault, but you're probably using the right capital. I know your right capital user, their vault for kind of the access to the documents electronically as they
we
go.
do. We actually have multiple vaults, but yes, Right
Okay.
Capital is one of them. And so
Okay.
some clients log into the planning software, some
Hmm.
clients log into the investment portal.
Okay. Gotcha.
And so they choose, and we store them in both places.
So cool. I have something that you might love about just a month or two ago, we launched a video that you can now send to the client that takes them through their documents. It's about 8 to 10 minutes long, and it's a, hey, client, review these documents that are now back, and it goes through each section. This section talks about these things, and it's a generic overview, but they can turn to that page or pull up that page in a PDF and actually see us talk about this section covers these things. And so you may not be
Wow.
aware that we just launched this, but it could
No.
be one that you could they can get the same content they would get from your time in that meeting, that they could just watch this video along with looking at their documents and probably save you, that 20 minutes of conversation when you sign it. So something to check out in the knowledge base. If you look up videos, signing video, you'll find it in the knowledge base as something you might be able to leverage there. Our goal is always, how do we make this as easy and you can hand off those things?
Yeah.
And so that might be helpful to speeding up there. We're good on the document. We're just here to sign and notarize.
Yep. Yep. So I know that when I was looking around at different services, Everplans was one of
Mhm.
the offerings that we
Mhm.
looked at. And I really liked Everplans for their legacy things, their storage. They had those extra steps of passwords,
Yep.
medications,
Yep.
doctors, what my preferred
Yep.
hospital, things like that. Um, and so that's what we sort of added into the binder, because
Okay.
Encore does a great job of taking in the
Yep.
information needed to prepare documents, but then there's those extra things. So maybe someday
Yeah.
Encore would add some more of those
It's
pieces.
absolutely, we see that as a perfect add-on to what we're doing. And so yeah, thank you for that feedback, because that's one we've gotten on a, what do we continue to build? And especially year one for so many people. And we see advisors wanting to even come back in year two and year three, and on that estate planning, finishing some of those details, adding those components. Maybe year one, you just got them to take the first level of action, whether you want to tackle all those then or tackle that in a follow-up, that you can continue to come back and deliver that value in estate planning and deepen it. So absolutely, those are on our list of things we can continue to help you deliver.
One more thing I will mention about the workflow. So once we've got the binder we delivered, we've stored it electronically for them. The final thing we do is we put a follow-up on the calendar for about 45 to 60 days later that says, hey, remember when we gave you that binder and there was a little checklist at the front to go to the
Mhm.
bank and change your
Yeah.
banking into the name of the trust? And we had you go to your 401k and change your beneficiaries, and
Yeah.
update it so that your minor children are not inheriting or whatever. And so we follow up with them, 45 to 60 days
Right.
later to say, hey, have you gotten your homework done? Do you need any
Mhm.
help? And I've even gone to the bank with clients and
That's
sat
awesome.
with them while we renamed their checking into their trust account.
That's awesome. Yeah, the funding is there. I mean, it's for so many, that is a huge gap that gets lost, even in the attorney experience, that those details of funding. I think this is where advisors have a tremendous opportunity to make sure it's done right and fully, that otherwise they don't often get that experience of having somebody facilitate and making sure those things are done and they're followed up. As we all know, we all need accountability. We all need somebody bugging us, even those with the best of us with a good intentions. We still need, that's sometimes the best thing an advisor does is just niggle at me to go, hey, let's finish. We got to do that piece, got to do that piece. And there's always
Yes.
the peace of mind on the back end that, okay, I got that thing done. I'm grateful to my advisor for grabbing me by the arm and getting me through the process. And that's the huge win, and goes right back to where we started this conversation, I think, with a why would I leave this advisor? I'm the stickiness that comes with having solved for these things, and I'm not going to find that. The likelihood of finding that another advisor is really low. And planning focused advisors have that advantage. I think it will become ubiquitous over time that more advisors are doing this, but right now it's such a huge advantage for advisors who are proactively finding this as an option. This has been super helpful. Thank you for sharing just your process and how you guys have put this together, because I know other advisors are going to appreciate hearing these details and these
Well,
work
good. Yeah.
those pieces. So thank you for sharing that. And maybe I'll even ask you if it's out there. We're thinking about creating a red tail workflow and giving that as a template
That
to
would be
other
nice.
advisors.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll think about and seeing if we can borrow what you have there and share how to set up a workflow as a knowledge-based resource. So I might take you up on hearing that as an opportunity
Yep.
to help more
Yeah, sure. And
advisors
I'd love to
have
see other
that
people's
pre-made.
too,
Yeah.
and build a template version. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, cool. I have one last question. So,
Okay.
you've been proactive from a planning, both with the tax capabilities and estate planning. We like to refer to it as the family office for the mass affluent. Those
Mhm.
capabilities now a decade ago. What do you think is going to happen next within financial services, whether it's technology? What do you think will look different? And you looked back 10 years, you were really unique in that. What do you see 5 and 10 years out from now that's going to change in financial services in your world and how you do what you do day to day?
I am hopeful that AI will plug into financial planning software
Hmm.
and we'll see the holes and the things, and it'll bring those things up like, hey, I don't know yet if you renamed your checking account into your trust account. And so it would create that task to at least verify.
Yep.
Or, hey, why did you not increase your Roth contribution? You've been doing $500 a month, but the max contribution used to be 6,000. Now it's 7,000.
Mhm.
Why have you not increased that? And so for AI to actually look into the financial plan, see what's happening, and then say, hey, it looks like something was missed. Because right
Mhm.
now that takes an advisor
Yep.
to constantly review the plan.
Yep.
Whereas if an advisor would review the recommendations from AI software, it might not be perfect, but at least it would ping us as to, oh yeah, they're not maxing that out anymore. Let's have a conversation.
Got it.
Um, those kinds of things. So I'm hopeful that AI will plug into financial planning and actually spur those conversations. We do quarterly things.
Yep.
AI can be constant.
Yeah.
Every time there's an update to tax code, constant. Hey, let's look at how that affects this plan and what we should be thinking about.
And isn't that beautiful in a couple different ways? Number one, I think it scales you and allows you to serve more households than you were able to. But it also gives you those touch points throughout the years. Client communication is so important to retention. And now, if you have those things throughout the year that you can touch base on and deliver value and uncover huge wins for you.
Yeah, I remember demoing an old software called Orange, which has morphed
Oh,
and
yeah.
changed
Hmm.
and now been shut down. But they were headed that direction. Like Orange
Hmm.
would come up with planning ideas based on the inputs in the planning software,
Okay.
which I thought this is brilliant. It didn't work. It didn't work, but the idea was there. They said it was
Yeah.
going
Yeah. Yeah.
to work. So
It's
I think
hard.
it's coming.
Yeah. And sometimes those earliest, the right idea too early is
Yes.
the toughest business. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe AI is getting there that these things can now be implemented. I know we see a future with Encore where a lot of those capabilities of just making it easier and prompts and those sorts of things that we see that opportunity within Encore as well. Well, thank you, Adam, for spending time sharing your knowledge on your experience and how this has worked for you. I know other advisors will appreciate it. And so we're grateful for you taking time out to
Yeah.
share.
Thanks for having me. It was my pleasure. I enjoyed it.
So thank you for tuning in to the Advisor's Guide to Estate Planning podcast. We really appreciate the support. Remember to subscribe, leave a review, share this with colleagues and friends. For questions or any feedback, email us at info@encoreestateplans.com. Can't wait to hear from you, and we'll see you on the next episode.